So why should you be engaging in international e-commerce? Why should it be a part of your strategy moving forward? The UK is in a really unique position. International retail is outpacing domestic retail online by a factor of 4. This means that by 2020, the value to the UK economy will be £28 billion. The UK is perceived, and particularly Scotland, as selling high-quality products. We have Scottish whisky, smoked salmon, fabrics, lots and lots of products that are perceived and are very, very high quality. This translates now into fantastic e-commerce sales. 9% of US, 6% of Chinese, and 15% of German shoppers already purchase UK products online. 16% of all products that are shipped from e-commerce are shipped abroad. That already represents a fantastic opportunity, and it's set to grow massively. So why am I the right person to talk to you about it? Well, for 3 years I worked for Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube is still the #1 selling toy of all time. Every year, with a limited budget, I doubled the profits from the website, Rubiks.com. As a percentage, that's 200% to the power 3, which gives you the number of quite a lot. The things I'm going to talk to you about today, I learned on that journey of 3 years. So can you benefit from international e-commerce? Well, that depends. And first of all, it depends on where your generic strategies are. So if you're focused in this area, if you're purely about cost, if your products have nothing different about them and are just competing based on cost, then you're probably not right for international e-commerce. Take a minute to just think about your company. Do your competitors provide the same product as you? Are you constantly battling to get cheaper products on the market? If so, online internationalization is probably not the best thing. Online is not about price. It's about providing customers with something they can't get anywhere else. When you ask international shoppers what the largest pull factor is for them purchasing online, it is by far the phrase, "I cannot find the product in my own country." This man is the master of "it's not about price." He doesn't really sell online, but I like the example, so I'm going to talk to you about him. This man's name is Christian von Koenigsegg, and he, unless you know quite a lot about cars, you're unlikely to have heard of him. He makes a car brand called Koenigsegg, and this is one of his models. This is my favorite one, but he makes several different cars. This car sits in a bracket of its own. So it's not a luxury car, it's not a sports car, it's not even a supercar. This is not competing with Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Maseratis. This is in its own little bubble. It's called a hypercar, and there are possibly 4 or 5 brands that fit into that bracket, of which Koenigsegg is one. This model is called the one-to-one. And it's called the one-to-one because, according to Christian, the best way to build a car is to build it based on the 1-to-1 ratio of weight to power. So this car weighs 1,340 kilograms. That's about the same as most of your cars in here. It has 1,340 brake horsepower. That's probably about 10 times the amount of most of your cars in here. But all this doesn't come cheap, and this particular car costs about $6 million. Only a handful were ever made, and he's still making them. However, before these ever leave the production line, they're sold. He has a waiting list of years to buy this car. How many sleepless nights do you think Christian has worrying about Toyota's pricing strategy? I would suggest not very many. Okay, hypercars are in a market of their own. We don't all sell hypercars. But what about people like Amazon? Surely they sell much more based on price. Well, no. Amazon aren't selling on price. What they do is they provide a very particular service. If you look over the internet, you will be able to find Amazon's products much cheaper. They're cheaper than bricks and mortar stores, but they're certainly not the cheapest. When you go onto Amazon, they provide you with a phenomenally easy service. So you go on, what you want is on Amazon, you can buy it with one click, and for the most part it will be there tomorrow. That's different from its competitors. Its way of competing is that it provides phenomenal logistics and phenomenal ease of purchase. It's not about price. So we've established that there's a fantastic opportunity in exporting online, and that being different is key. But how do we use that difference to grow our products? Most of you, I'm sure, are already looking in these areas. So this is your existing market, and your existing product is called market penetration. It's where you get the most out of your product in your existing market. You can then build new products for your existing market. That's not really what we're looking at today. What we're looking at is new markets. So market development and diversification. Do you want to create a new product for a new market, or do you want to take your existing product into a new market? Well, it depends. We just looked at Amazon. Amazon has basically the same product no matter where you go. It might be in a different language, it might be in a different currency. Some of the products might be slightly different, but Amazon's core service is very much the same. If we look at these two websites, this is AliExpress and Taobao. These are both owned by Alibaba, which is the largest online retailer in the world. And they look very, very different. We might be more familiar with this idea of e-commerce here. It looks very similar to a lot of websites I'm sure you buy things from. This one, however, looks dodgy. And there's a number of reasons it looks dodgy and feels dodgy to us. But why? So I'm going to talk about three things: the market, the brand, and the website. And for me, these are the three areas that are most important when developing your e-commerce strategy. And one follows the other. So you have to get your market right, you have to understand your market, you have to do a lot of market research. You have to get your brand right for that market. That's not reinventing your brand or rebranding at all. It's subtly changing your brand so that it fits in with your new market. And then you've got to build the website, the nuts and bolts of things. So we'll start with logistics. So logistics are incredibly important. You must be able to ensure delivery, or rather ensure delivery that the market is used to. So in Hungary is the home of the Rubik's Cube. There are more Rubik's Cubes sold in Hungary per capita than anywhere else in the world. However, there are next to no online sales in Hungary. And that's because they have a rather peculiar model for buying things online. Quite often you go online, you reserve it in a store, and then, you reserve it, you go and pick it up in a store and you pay for it in the store. Kind of like Amazon's, not Amazon, Argos's thing where you can book it and go and pick it up in a store, but there isn't the kind of typical e-commerce. People don't pay online. So that's not a market that's very easy to get into. We decided that e-commerce wasn't worth it in Hungary for Rubik's Cube. Mexico is another good example. In Mexico, unfortunately, it's quite corrupt. The post service is corrupt, and you lose a lot of product. So you're not able to ensure that level of delivery. So again, we decided not to go into Mexico. The next thing is openness to online. When we saw in the Hungary example, there is an inherent suspicion towards putting your credit card details online in Hungary. And in fact, a lot of Eastern Europe, although things are changing. India is another really good example, where they use a system called COD, or cash on delivery. And what they do is you order a product online, it comes to your house, and then you pay either by card or by cash to the courier. Even in economies that are more open to online, like the United States, people are not always open to what we would perceive as the most obvious way of doing things. When we were doing Rubix.com, we launched a second phase website, and we had all the payment gateway use PayPal, because we thought, well, that's the safest way. We're not Amazon, we don't have the long history of taking payments online. We better use something like PayPal so that people trust us. We had PayPal, but we also took credit card payments through PayPal on Rubix.com. And we thought this was great. You know, the new website was much better than the old one. We had a massive spike in sales. It was really good. Until we got this email from an American lady who was really upset that she couldn't provide all her sensitive credit card details directly to us without going through an approved third party. So we thought, well, why don't we implement another payment gateway? It's not that difficult, it's not that expensive. It's a bit strange because we thought PayPal's a better way of doing it, but we did. And overnight, there was a 30% increase in sales. And out of that total number of sales, 80% of them in the US were then going through this new payment gateway. So we were paying a much lower fee for the payment gateway than we were with PayPal, but actually we found out that people in the US didn't like going through PayPal as much as we thought they were going as much as we thought they would. Market size. Is there a market for your product? Just because there's a market in the UK, or even a bricks and mortar market in other countries, doesn't mean there's a market online. Do that research, do the analysis, because it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Are you known? Seeding a product is really, really difficult if you're not already known in that market. There are ways of doing it. You can go in with a partner, especially if there's a bricks and mortar partner, you can then develop an e-commerce site alongside that. The other thing you can do, and Scotland is in a very fortunate position to do it, is sell it as a product that is Scottish, because people trust the Scottish brand, or the British brand. There is a competitive advantage over different countries. So German products, if you're shipping to Germany, can't claim to be Scottish. You can sell as being Scottish. It's really powerful. Because it's such a good example, we're going to bring back Taobao and AliExpress. Does your website look the part? When we compare these two, they look incredibly different. Everything from the color schemes, the amount of, I mean, there are loads of social media here. It's all red and pink and purples. There are kind of cute girls in, I think, onesies there. You know, this is a very cutesy site. This is much more what we're familiar with. The women are quite seductive, it's very plain, it's much nicer to our design ethos. But this works in China. This works in the US and in the UK. If you're trying to sell this in China, it's not going to work. In the same way that this doesn't sell in the UK. You have to be aware of this. If you're using models with your products and you're selling it to markets like China, use this style, not this style, because it's not going to work. Product offering. This is another really interesting one. It's really important to get your product right for your market. So this is a Rubik's Speed Cube. Now, most of you have probably never heard of a Rubik's Speed Cube. There is a quite cult following of people who like to do the Rubik's Cube really fast. Some of them can even do it in under 5 seconds. It's incredibly geeky. There are world championships all over the world. It's very strange, but it does exist. This is the highest selling product on Rubix.com. It outsells the original Rubik's Cube by a factor of 2 to 1. It's got next to no sales in retail. People aren't interested in offering it to the core market. You know, this is never going to appear in Tesco or Walmart, any of those places. But there are people who want to buy it online. So why not offer them a product unique to what they want? It's fantastic for a retailer or a brand like Rubix because you can charge a much, much higher price. So these didn't cost very much more to produce, and yet these sold for about $25 online. Compare that to a Rubik's Cube in retail is $7 or $8. Much, much higher margin. And the other great thing is you're not cannibalizing your on or offline sales. So Amazon aren't interested in doing little unique niche products. Neither are Walmart or Tesco or any other large bricks and mortar retailers. So you're not upsetting them and you're not cannibalizing your core market, but you're able to provide a service and a very high value item to a lot of people. So how could you do this for your product? Well, you can do limited runs, you can do special editions. You could quite easily, when going into a new market with a whiskey product, for example, sell the same product you're selling in the UK, branded differently for, say, America. Message. Message is so important when talking to your market. Mattel got the message very, very wrong in China. Mattel went in with this idea of the House of Barbie. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but what they did was build a Barbie shopping centre, basically filled with everything Barbie. It was pink and glitzy and completely wrong for the Chinese market. The Chinese market is much more interested in cutesy Pokemon, Hello Kitty type things, and parents aren't that interested in buying their children toys. They'd much rather purchase books and things like that. Mattel wasted a huge amount of money, and 2 years later they pulled out of China in terms of their big Barbie house. It was not a good message. They hadn't done their market research. There are brands that do it incredibly well. McDonald's is one of them, so is Coca-Cola, and Starbucks also. If you go to a McDonald's in China, you'll notice that the meat in their chicken products is darker than what they call breast meat over here. And that's because the perception in China is that dark meat is tastier and nicer and a higher quality product than the breast meat that we prefer over here. So little things that you don't think about, but they actually mean a lot to consumers in other countries. In terms of advertising, everyone is doing SEO. Most people will tell you, you have to do SEO, AdWords, Facebook advertising, all that sorts of thing. You do need to do them, but everyone's doing that. You need to do something to stand out. If you tell your target market that you're great, chances are they're not going to listen. If a vocal and well-trusted member of your target market tells your target market that you're great, chances are they're going to pay attention. This guy is a guy called Kenneth Brannan, who runs a YouTube channel called Red KB, and what they do is twisty puzzles. Again, it's on this quite small niche, but he has a few 100,000 followers and his YouTube channel gets a reasonable amount of traffic. All he does is review different types of twisty puzzles, which is the kind of collective name for things that look like Rubik's Cubes. So that's not a traditional Rubik's Cube, but it's a twisty puzzle, and most people would just call it a Rubik's Cube, but you can't. So when we were launching the SpeedCube on Rubix.com, what we did was we sent him a SpeedCube to review, and we got him to review it. And he went on, and he didn't even give it a particularly good review, but he fired it directly at our target audience. As a result, we sold out 6 months worth of stock in 3 days. It resulted in a lot of money. If you don't have a market following, especially in a localized market, invest in an evangelist. Find someone that can speak for your brand and who speaks about the products that you're trying to sell. So we've spoken about market research and the importance of market research, and then how you can use that to sort of change your brand slightly. This is the kind of nuts and bolts of it, and what you should be doing on your site. So it's really important to get currency on it. You have to have, if you're selling into a market, I suggest you use their currency. And it's about security and trust. If you're purchasing, even from a country like the States, which is a quite trusted country, and you see a dollar, you have to pay in dollars, there are questions in your mind. Oh, is it going to get there in time? Is this all right? Is the company dodgy? You know, and you lose a lot of people like that. You can save those people by just offering it in that currency. It's not that difficult to do. The next thing is language. Now, language has that credibility in the same way that currency does, but also, if you don't have the language, they don't understand you, so that can be quite a difficult sell as well. Next is customer support. This is probably by far the most important thing to get right. And customer support in the language so people are able to engage with it. So customers receive a faulty product, and excellent customer support are likely to leave a good review. Even if you receive a great product but have cause to go online and engage with customer support and it's rubbish, then likelihood is you're not going to get a good review. So there are my kind of 3 areas that I think are the most important. The kind of market research, getting the brand right, and then developing those little bits for the website. I just want to talk just about a couple more things that I think are really important when doing e-commerce in general. The first one is to merge on and offline. So a lot of brands, and larger brands are more guilty of this than anyone, have their retail and they have their online, and they never engage the two. And it's really dangerous. So what we did at Rubik's Cube is the 2 highest traffic days on Rubik's.com are Christmas Day and Boxing Day. And the reason for this is that lots of people go out and buy Rubik's Cubes in stores, in Walmart, in Tesco, and give them to people as Christmas presents. And you get a Rubik's Cube, and gone are the days where you buy a book or sit down and learn how to do it, or get infuriated by it. You go online, you say, how do you solve a Rubik's Cube? They find Rubik's.com, and there are detailed instructions on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. It's actually not that complicated, you just follow the steps. Once this is done, there are a small number of those people that want to do it faster and get better at it. And so they learn all the different techniques, and they learn the different moves, and they want to show their friends. But the thing is, with a standard Rubik's Cube, they're quite stiff to turn. So you can't actually get that quick with one. The next logical step is the speed. So we've taken them from buying a physical product to engaging online to selling them a much higher priced, much higher revenue product direct from us, which makes us a lot more money. Now, not everyone goes through this cycle, but it's a kind of after service they receive that then sells them in a secondary product. You can make a lot of money. The next thing is not to use the field of dream methods of website development. Use what's called a minimum viable product. Build something that does the job. So tick all the boxes, but don't invest heavily in all the little bits that web developers will say, oh, you definitely need this, this is the way forward, this is what you should be doing. Just get something up there that works and ticks the boxes. You'd much better spending the money on market research and R&D than actually building this big fancy website. So there's a lot of opportunity in e-commerce. e-commerce, and it's growing. Internationalising e-commerce is the future for a lot of brands. Excuse me. There's a lot to consider. And I've only touched on some of it here today, and I hope you found some of the things that I've said interesting for your companies and relevant to you. I even have some time for some Q&A, but afterwards please come up and talk to me, and come and get one of these books, because I've got loads of them. I don't really want to. So thank you very much.